Okay, you've spent years building a rental portfolio, and as you're getting closer to retirement, you're kind of wondering, how do you actually use this in retirement? I mean, do you just focus on the cash flow and how that impacts your spending? Or are there other ways to integrate it into your retirement planning and overall financial planning? Let's break it down. My name is Scott Caulfield. I'm a CPA and CFA charter holder and the founder of Sophos Wealth Management. So I think there's kind of two approaches you can take here. One is the cash flow approach, which we already kind of mentioned, focusing on your rental income and expenses. And the other is kind of thinking of it as a portfolio approach. So treating the property as an asset and part of your overall investment portfolio. Now, rental real estate, it obviously provides income, diversification. You've got long-term appreciation. There's obviously some risk. One of the big differences versus, say, your investment portfolio, obviously, is leverage and the amount of work that you individually have done or need to do to manage it, dealing with tenants and upkeep and all that kind of good stuff. First, let's look at the cash flow approach. I think this is going to be the most common for people out there, especially if you're DIYing, you're planning, because it kind of matches your what you're used to, right? You are used to tracking your property, putting it on your tax return, your income and expenses. So obviously, you're just going to look at, what's your net income, you're taking your gross rent minus your expenses, mortgage, taxes, insurance, maintenance, all the property, if you have property management, HOA, so on and so forth. And then obviously, you want to think about that future maintenance and upkeep. So is there some extra number that you're setting aside for reserves? Depending on the source you look at, people say anywhere often between 1 or 2%. Sometimes they'll say as high as four, but usually you see people setting aside 1 or 2% of the property value for upkeep and future upkeep, and then kind of normalizing your cash flow a little bit. I mean, you got to give some allowance, especially from a planning standpoint, for potential vacancies, bad tenants, unexpected costs. So just trying to be conservative with your estimates. So how does this often look like? Like if we pretend somebody had gross rent of $30,000 a year, they had expenses of 15,000 a year. Pretty simple. Their net rental income would be about 15,000 a year. If we plugged in some sort of normalized cash flow number, so again, kind of being a little bit conservative and accounting for bad things that could happen. Maybe we knock off $5,000 that we set in reserve and we call the cash flow $10,000. Pretty easy right there. And if we just stopped there, you'd say, all right, I've got $10,000 coming in my pocket. You can adjust that for inflation and that's what my future looks like. But obviously that's missing a lot. So, I mean, how are you going to deal with the future appreciation of the property, the payoff of the mortgage? You know, if you look at the historical returns of rental real estate, you'll find that over half the returns are rental income, but the other half, just under half, is from capital appreciation. So that's obviously a huge component. And if you only focus on your cash flow, it's something that you're probably going to miss. But I think that's going to lead you to kind of understating what you could spend in retirement under kind of conservative assumptions. So, this is a tricky deal if you take the cash flow approach. Is what's the right amount to add in for appreciation? How do you deal with the appreciation part of the property since it's not income in your pocket on an annual basis? Unless you sell it in the future and you get that big lump sum, what do you do with this? And then to the extent that you do take it into account, you have the issue of, okay, well, where do I get the cash from? I can't just go above and beyond my cash flow unless I'm going to take out like a HELOC and pull on that. So that is, I think, the biggest drawback to the cash flow approach. In fact, that's why I don't actually usually use the cash flow approach when I'm kind of thinking about rental real estate for clients. I prefer more of the portfolio approach. So in this case, we're going to just take rental real estate and just consider it part of your overall portfolio. So, we're just going to include that value in your overall investable assets. And then based on your overall portfolio, we're going to apply a safe withdrawal rate. Simple example would be if you had $1 million, say 401k and other investments, and then $1 million investment property, net of mortgage, we'd say your total portfolio is 2 million. Okay, pretty simple. If you're kind of at retirement and we're looking at what a safe withdrawal rate is on that total portfolio, we would say, at a 4% safe withdrawal rate, that'd be 80,000 a year to start. At a 5% withdrawal rate, that'd be 100,000 a year to start with. So, that's a simple way of doing it. That's really taking into account both your rental income and your future price appreciation. So it's giving you a total return aspect of the portfolio. I mean, if you're only focused on rental income, it would kind of be like putting together a stock portfolio and only living off the dividends. Now, there's people out there that try to do that, but it results in a very conservative setup and results in most people underspending their assets. Alternatively, it can lead people to making poor decisions with their investment portfolios or stocks because they are hyper focused on just what the yield is without what's the underlying growth potential, what's the total return, right? Total return. So price appreciation plus dividends, that is so much more important than just what you're getting in dividends. So I prefer thinking about rental real estate more as that long-term investment, and not so much just its short-term rental income. You're going to have short-term bumps. You're going to have short-term things go well, go poorly. But the other aspect too is you think about incorporating this into your planning, these what's the kind of the return on the two assets? And usually, historically, I've often just thought of the returns as being pretty equivalent. And, if you look at, say, data from the San Francisco Fed came out in 2015, did a study all the way from 1870 through 2015, looked at residential real estate, like investment real estate versus, say, stocks and also bonds and bills. And interestingly, while they found that US equities have had better real returns than US residential real estate, globally, the inverse is true. So, real estate has been a better investment globally than equities have globally. So, kind of interesting there by almost 2% on a global basis. But then the US, it's the other way by almost 2% too. So, uh, because of all that, I like to just kind of assume that they're roughly equivalent. Now, those return numbers I just mentioned too don't take into account leverage, which obviously has a massive component of most people's real estate returns. And it can cut both ways, both for the good and the bad. But in terms of the way you're planning it, I would just kind of look at that asset as part of your overall portfolio. Alternatively, if you're going to take the cash flow approach, I recommend trying to figure out some way of incorporating what's the capital appreciation. Without being too aggressive. I mean, that's kind of the drawback. It's almost like a hybrid approach if you're taking capital appreciation into your cash flow there. But, I think it is important to get it included somehow because it's half the return of rental real estate. So, love to hear your stories about how you're using real estate and how you're going about planning your retirement if you do have rental properties. And appreciate it if you like this video, subscribe to my channel and share with anyone that you think would benefit. Thanks.